They said universal basic income was just a theory. But today, it's already shaping real lives across the globe. From villages in India to experiments in Canada, the question isn't just can it work? It's what actually happens when it does. Stay with me, because at the end, I'll share a bonus tip about the hidden ingredient that determines whether UBI truly succeeds. But first, if you are jobless and need direction, I've got a guide made especially for you. I put together a short guide called The Edge of Enough. It's a set of 5 practical shifts that help you create security and margin in your life. You can grab it right now. The link is in the description. Welcome to Gutstograce, where courage meets change. I'm Jane, and here we explore what it takes to face uncertainty with guts and how to find grace in the middle of it. Because guts get you started, but it's grace that carries you forward. One of the most overlooked but fascinating experiments happened in rural India. Between 2011 and 2013, thousands of villagers in the state of Madhya Pradesh received small but regular basic income payments. The results were striking. Families used the money for food, better schooling, and health care. Malnutrition rates dropped, school attendance climbed, and people invested in simple improvements like clean water and mosquito nets. What's important here is the multiplier effect. A little bit of consistent income produced ripple effects across entire communities. A child who wasn't constantly sick could stay in school. A parent who didn't have to borrow at crushing interest rates could actually save. These weren't luxuries. They were basic building blocks of stability. It reminds us that UBI isn't just a cash handout. In some contexts, it's literally the difference between surviving and starting to thrive. Fast forward to Kenya, where the nonprofit Give Directly launched the largest and longest UBI experiment in the world. Some villages have been receiving monthly stipends for over a decade, while others get short-term or lump sum payments. The findings? Consistency matters. In villages with long-term UBI, families began making transformative choices, investing in small businesses, building sturdier homes, and even experimenting with farming techniques that took a few years to bear fruit. Short-term aid didn't create the same level of security. Here's the kicker. Researchers found that recipients didn't just consume the money. They used it to plan ahead, to move from survival mode to strategy mode. That mindset shift is priceless, and it connects directly to what I built into my free guide, The Edge of Enough. Because when you understand how to create margin in your life, you stop living at the edge of crisis and start building toward a future, with or without the security of UBI. And you can download it right now. Links in the description. Another fascinating experiment is happening in South Korea. In Gyeonggi Province, young adults receive a quarterly stipend. Not enough to replace work, but enough to give breathing room. The results? A lot of recipients use the money to cover transportation, study materials, or even networking activities. In other words, they invested in opportunities that made them more employable. It turns out that when you relieve a little pressure at the bottom, people don't just sit back. They often move forward. In fact, the province reported higher rates of job-seeking activity and small business startups among participants compared to peers. And if we look further back, Canada ran a famous Mincome experiment in the 1970s in Dauphin, Manitoba. Families who received the income saw measurable health improvements. Hospital visits went down, especially for mental health crises and accidents. Kids stayed in school longer. Even though that program ended, Researchers later called it one of the clearest demonstrations that financial security directly translates into social well-being. Both South Korea and Dauphin remind us, sometimes the biggest change isn't in flashy success stories, but in the quiet statistics. Fewer hospital beds filled, more young adults daring to take a step forward. So what does this mean for all of us? Let's imagine a society where UBI isn't just a pilot project, but a national reality. What happens when fewer people are in constant survival mode? You'd likely see healthier communities. Parents who aren't forced to work 2 jobs might actually spend evenings with their kids. People could retrain into industries of the future without fearing homelessness. Entrepreneurs might take risks that lead to whole new markets. And think about the collective mental health impact. Anxiety drains energy and creativity. Security frees it. A society where the bottom rung is solid is a society where innovation and collaboration can flourish. Now, this isn't to say UBI is a magic wand. It comes with tough questions about funding, fairness, and impact on work incentives. But the experiments we've looked at show us something simple and profound. Security unlocks potential. Reflection for you. If your community received a universal basic income, what would shift first? Health, education, innovation? Or maybe just the ability to breathe, to slow down, to reconnect? Here's that bonus tip I promised at the start. UBI programs succeed or fail, not just on the amount of money given, but on the trust built into the system. When people believe the support is reliable and unconditional, they make long-term decisions. Without that trust, they stay cautious and short-term. In other words, security isn't just about dollars, it's about confidence. That's the hidden key that determines whether UBI really changes lives. So what do you think? Is UBI really changing lives? Or just a short-term social experiment? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. This is Jane with Gutstograce. Thanks for spending time with me today. I love knowing that we're figuring this out together, step by step. Remember that every step takes guts, and every journey is sustained by grace. I'll see you in the next video. And don't stop here. The next video in this series is waiting for you, right on your screen. It's the natural next step in understanding how we can build security in uncertain times. And when you combine it with what you just learned here, you'll know more and be more prepared to navigate whatever comes next.